Hi, you with Julian on the Brown Note and American Hypocrisy in Syria. So America went into Syria after invading the nations of Iraq and Afghanistan and turning those countries into a pile of shit, particularly in the case of Iraq, and we know they did it for lies. And the reasons they stated were fake, and they invaded foreign countries. We all know this. They did the same in Libya, helping overthrow Colonel Gaddafi and turning that country into a basket case in large part in the hands of Islamists. And then their whole paradigm in the Middle East is that the South, prior to Chinese peace between Iran and Syria, which is going to be the most interesting geopolitical development of the last decade at least, everything south, Israel, the Saudis and the Sunni side of Islam were regarded as Western allies. The North were regarded as enemies and Russian allies, Iran, Syria and so on. So America tried to, in their endless quest for regime change, which they got in Afghanistan, Libya and Iraq, which all led to complete disaster. They wanted the same in Syria. Again, Syria was another country helmed by a tyrant, but a completely fully functioning country that it doesn't resemble today. Obama tried to get the West to go in. We made up lots of crap about chemical weapons, which we forget about now. A lot of it laughable, and the country is a basket case. Islamic State went into Syria, and we on the West and then the Saudis and the freedom fighters, many of whom were foreign soldiers in Syria, turned the country into a war zone with one aim: to overthrow Assad, the leader of Syria. And the West was fighting on the same side as Islamic State. Make no bones about that. We were. And so was Israel. Israel got caught patching up Islamic State fighters by a conservative journalist in an Israeli hospital and sending them back to fight, because their enemy was also Assad. But now, after a period of relative quiet in the Middle East and the war in Ukraine, the Russian war in Ukraine raging, the hypocrisy of America now bombing Syria is mind-blowing, and the whole world can see it, even if the West won't talk about it. The idea that Ukrainians deserve their sovereignty and not to be attacked by a foreign superpower, whilst a foreign superpower does that to Syria and complains about Russia doing it in Ukraine, is so clean. I mean, there is no possible way around that. Why? They're saying that they're attacking Iranian-backed militias in Syria. Every media organisation uses the caveat Iranian-backed. Are Ukrainian freedom fighters American-backed? Do we need to put that in front of it every time we say it? So apparently an American military contractor was killed, and now America's bombing parts of Syria. Why is the American military in Syria? Were they asked to be there? No, they were not asked to be there. They were there to overthrow the government of Syria. They were there to fight the government of Syria. Are we at war with Syria? No, we're not. So why is the American military in Syria? Why is the American military maintaining military bases in a sovereign nation that isn't their own? How is this somehow different to what Russia's doing in Ukraine? The Iranians were invited. The Iranians are allies with the Syrian government. They want them there. So us attacking Iranian, if we were attacking Iranians, we could say we were attacking Iranians, but we're saying we're attacking Iranian-backed militias. What, are these Syrians inside Syria? There is no way that you can paint what America is doing in Syria differently to what Russia is doing in Ukraine. They wanted to overthrow the government. In fact, you can, because Syria was never any kind of threat to the USA. Russia has its long list of reasons why it invaded and waged war in Ukraine. America doesn't have any for Syria at all. And you can say that the Russian reasons are wrong or whatever. America doesn't even have any reasons to be wrong about. They just wanted the regime to be overthrown. And they're also facilitating Israel bombing, almost weekly now, bombing in Syria. Israel bombed Aleppo airport recently, the main artery via air into Syria, in the weeks after a dramatic earthquake, which in turn has a lot of aid being delivered through Aleppo airport, and the West remains silent. And that, in this new geopolitical paradigm, where China brokers peace with Saudi and Iran, is what the rest of the world sees. We're hypocrites. America is still stealing Syrian oil at this moment. This is the great example of why the West, hammering on from this moral precipice about how, we support Ukrainians because they're being invaded by this nasty foreign power, and the rest of the world goes, look at what you're doing. Hypocrites.